This is the Average Guy Network, and you have found Home Gadget Geeks, show number 348, recorded on March 22nd, 2018. Here on Home Gadget Geeks, we cover all the favorite tech gadgets that find their way into news, reviews, product updates, and conversation, all for the average tech guy. I'm your host, Jim Collison, broadcasting live from the Average Guy studios here in a beautiful Bellevue, Nebraska. Mike, some rain coming in over the weekend, and the ground is super wet. I think it's time to start throwing some grass seeds out, right?
Yeah, we had our first lawn application. We have a company that comes out, and they already came out. He actually told me, hey, you need to rake your leaves because you still have piles of them that are causing snow mold, is what they call it, when it starts to warm up and you get that water trapped below the leaves. Yeah.
So, gentlemen, ladies, if you're listening, it's lawn maintenance time. I think no matter what part of the country you're in, you might want to get out and just take a peek. Or get your robot lawnmower. It's probably time to take the robot lawnmower out of the shed, put it in its charging base station, and get it ready to. Maybe Aaron's the only one that's going to do that for us. But of course, we post a show with world-class show notes each week out at theaverageguy.tv. Don't forget, you can also join us live on our mobile app. We want to thank LastPass for their sponsorship of that app. Easiest way to get to it, homegadgetgeeks.com. If you're new to the network or new to Home Gadget Geeks, a great way to listen on the road. It's really the best way to listen on the road, especially listen live. Easy to get to. You don't have to find anything. It just works if you want to listen that way. HomeGadgetGeeks.com, both Android, iPhone available for you. Don't forget, rate and review on iTunes. I almost never ask for this, but it is helpful if you do that. So if you're listening to this in iTunes, go out and rate and review on that. Get that done for us. If you're watching or listening on YouTube, head out and subscribe to the live page. That way, you'll get some kind of notification. There's a subscribe button and a bell. Click on both of those so you get subscribed to the live. Many of you have subscribed over to the edited side, right? The AverageGuy.tv, whatever that page is on YouTube. But if you want to catch the live thing, and it sounds like maybe there's some, Mike, with YouTube, there's some new announcements, like when we go live. We haven't figured that out yet, but maybe
it's the best way to be notified, even if you don't go to the YouTube app. Like if you come to someone's page, kind of like we do on this show, and you have the chat room, it's a great way to just be reminded, though, of someone going live. I use that feature just for that.
I've been watching more and more of my subscribers. That's not right. Those I subscribe to. Mm-hmm. I'm kind of like, I'm waiting for them to post something, and I'm using the links it creates who you subscribe to on the left-hand side. I'm doing more and more of that lately. So if you find that helpful, make sure you do that on YouTube, and then go out and like us on Spreaker. That's always nice. If you're listening to us on the Spreaker app, you can click the little like button. We ask that you do that. Don't forget, Mike and I do a little post-show crypto conversation tonight. We got some updates. I got new hardware update to share with you, although I'll share that in this show. We'll talk more about it in the crypto, kind of our crypto update. And so if you want to do that, head out to theaverageguy.tv/support. Join us on Patreon. $1 a month gets you in there, get you access to those shows. We appreciate your sponsorship of the show. Great way to do it. You don't have to listen to the post show if you don't want to. You can just support us in one day. $1 and $5 plans available. Helps pay the bills here at theaverageguy.tv. We appreciate your support. Theaverageguy.tv/support. All right. Let's jump into this, Mike. We've had a busy week. It's always funny as we think about, I build the show notes on Monday or Tuesday, ship them over to you, and there's a blank slate. And I kind of think, ooh, this is kind of nice. This is getting delivered.
Yeah, bottle service over at the
Sarah,
house.
what is this? What is this?
It's a Taylor.
Ooh, so we call this a Taylor Swift. If you're listening to the podcast, it's a red fruity drink. What's in it?
Fresh lemon, white rum, sparkling cranberry juice.
Anything with rum, and you've got my attention.
White rum is pretty good. We call it. Thank you.
Feel like you're on the beach.
We call it a Taylor Swift, and I don't know why, but we do. So she asked me tonight, beer or a drink? I said both. So she brought it down here for me. But
2 of each, please.
No, I'll take 2.
Yeah.
We build the show notes early in the week, and I put a few things in there. I'm like, oh, how am I going to find enough things to talk about? And boom, by the time we go live, show notes are built and we're ready to go. Mike, did you see the news? I put the Internet Archive, which, if some of you aren't aware, I actually post every single Home Gadget Geeks, and I have since show 100, out to the Internet Archive, right? So archive.org, if you head out there, if you ever want to listen out there, you can. All the Home Gadget Geeks, all Cyber Frontiers, anything we've ever done is out at archive.org. I'm pretty sure after the zombie apocalypse, it will be the only internet thing available, right? It'll be
Does some big corporate, does like Google own that? How do they have the space for all of that?
Now they raised money. It's
Really?
and I don't know all the details, but every year they ask for donations, and I'm sure there's something behind that feeds them corporate.
Yeah, it's just a lot of storage, I would imagine, because there
It
is a
is.
lot. I went and looked because I remembered you mentioning that maybe about a year ago. So when you posted the story, I went out and looked. I'm like, man, like what's the backstory here? It's very interesting. But this story especially was really cool.
Yeah, well, started out as the Wayback Machine. So for folks who know what I'm talking about, you have to be around. The Internet Archive started as that Wayback Machine. So if you ever want to see what a website looked like 10 years ago, you can go out there, type in the website, go to the Wayback Machine, type in the website, and it depends on when it crawled it and some of those kinds of things, but it's got records, right, of what the site go. If you want a funny, just it's embarrassing actually. Go over to the Wayback Machine, put the averageguy.tv in there, and go way back to 2009. You can see terrible website design. It's awful. Christian helped me with it. It's pretty bad, but all available through the Wayback Machine. But Mike, they're making Internet Archives is making your favorite LCD handheld games available, emulation in the browser. I thought that was pretty cool. You had to have played some of these games when you were a kid.
Totally. But the one I played, I didn't see on there. I played it, and you'll know the name right away. It's the football one where you run and you're getting, but it almost wasn't LCD. It was just red lines on a black screen, if I remember right. And you were moving back and forth to get from one end zone to the other.
Yeah, and that's not the Coleco one. That
it was like an up arrow, down arrow, and a right arrow.
Different. Those are kind of, I think, before these. That they had a baseball one. They had, I think, a Yahtzee one. I'm gonna say they had some games that way.
Yes, the Yahtzee especially.
Right. Oh, we played the crap out of that Yahtzee, right, when it was out. Yeah. No, these are more of the LCD, and it has just, these different actions. The one on the front page, I dropped the link in the show notes, as well as it being available in the chat room. But there's a karate game. Mortal Kombat came out this way. Burger Time, Qbert. Some of those games are available for you, and they just emulate them in the browser. So if you were you'd have to be about my age to when these things first came out. They're available for you out there. Over 200 of them have come out, and they're adding more to the list all the time. So if you want to go out there,
RoboCop 2. Yep, I played that one.
Yeah, if you want to get out there and see, you can kind of see a list of them in the link that I put out there in the show notes. This was kind of that in between the football, baseball, Yahtzee, and actually getting some real handheld games. I think these were in between those. The Nightmare Before Christmas is available out there. So you might want to check them out. Head out to archive.org. Follow the link. Go out to the show notes. Follow the link out to the article. They'll have some of those out there. But kind of some old school fun. Like, you'll want to mess with them for about 10 minutes. And then you're done, basically.
Yeah. Well, and then you'll in a month you'll get back on it and you'll play another one. It's one of those sites.
Yeah, it's not Fortnite. That's for sure.
It is not Fortnite, which I'll be probably playing after we get done tonight again.
Yeah. Are you guys staying up well into the evening to play that? Is that
Hannah doesn't? No. Okay. No. Hannah needs her sleep, and she'll tell you, and I've started to admit that about myself too. If I don't get my sleep, it's rough the next day. But I'm usually staying up a little bit later to play that game.
Very nice. Yeah, no, this is not Fortnite, but certainly a lot of fun. Head out to archive.org and track that down. They got some cool stuff out there. It's pretty interesting. If you want to see the web the way it used to be, I think that is your place. This week, John Biggs sent me a note. I dropped in the Facebook group, by the way, if you haven't headed out there, facebook.com/groups/theaverageguy. I think it's out there. If you want to join us, I haven't had too many join recently, but if you want to join us, that's right. From the Facebook group, the world's largest SSD capacity now stands, and this rocketed from 30 terabytes to 100 terabytes. So 100 terabytes in an SSD. Exadrive drive is out there. From Nimbus Data. And they have somehow crammed 100 terabytes of 3D flash memory into a standard 3.5-inch SATA form factor. For context, 20 million songs can fit on 100 terabyte SSD. I think the business case, Mike, this is still several $1,000s. So this is not average guy equipment. Right. You and I, as much as we love burst mining, are not going to plot on a 100 terabyte SSD, right?
No.
Although, how cool would that be, right?
I mean, I'm thinking about it, but I'm not going to do it.
There's absolutely not enough burst coins in the world to be able to pay this one back.
Right.
So you're just not going to get it done. But that being said, the case now, or at least one, I think it was built probably just to prove it could be
I was
done.
going to say proof of concept was
Yeah.
a big.
Certainly in some data centers where that kind of space is needed. Maybe you don't have a lot of space physically from a room mount, but you need to get a whole bunch of storage in there. I could see an enterprise picking up 2, 3, or 4 of these, even as expensive as they are, to get them in a micro data center, right? They only have a small section to be able to do it at.
Well, think of cache drives for a large data set, right? You have all of a sudden you have a fast SSD that has enough that it can cache a lot of data and still have that speed to it and have it all in one drive. You're right. So some data centers might have a use case for that.
Yeah.
But what was shocking to me was this was only a month after the 30 terabyte record. When I first read it, I was like, okay, 30 terabytes. What was that, like a year or two ago? No, this was like a month ago.
Yeah.
And then they already said, no, we can go to 100.
Boom. We'll just blow right past it.
Yeah.
So due out this summer, it'll have pricing comparable to other business grade SSDs on a per terabyte basis, which is likely the price will be in the tens of thousands of dollars, which is probably enough that you kind of go, like I said, you and I, we're not doing this, but we'll see this eventually. I mean, we're going to see this in our lifetime, which is crazy. We're going to see 100 terabyte SSDs already. For the average consumer, a 250 gig SSD is super reasonable.
Right. And as I've been watching more and more, so I like to watch a lot of the build videos on YouTube. More and more, I'm seeing a lot of people use 1 and 2 terabyte SSDs in their builds, which I think are pretty expensive, but they're coming down in price enough that is now a standard. You used to do a fusion, right? You would have a terabyte spindle drive and then maybe a 250 or 500 gig SSD as your boot drive. But now they're starting to just throw a whole terabyte or 2 terabyte SSD in there.
And I haven't been a big fan. I've kind of been a fan of the hybrid because I don't think an SSD is great for your OS drive. But if you have transactional data that you're moving around a lot, SSD probably isn't the right place to store that. You probably want that on a spinning drive. It's a lot cheaper. You're going to wear out that drive faster the more you write and read, really the more you write to it. So you have that drawback. So I've been a big fan. The new burst build, we'll talk about this in the crypto show. The new burst build has I think it's a 250 gig. I think that's what I got with this. Windows takes maybe 50 gig of that. There's 200 just kind of sitting there that I kind of have to decide. Now it's nice because Windows balloons out as you go. So good to have that space around. But I have not been, I'm kind of a traditionalist in the sense, smaller OS drive, and then stripe your other drives appropriately, based on what you're trying to get out of them. So that's kind of how I've approached it.
Well, especially for me too, because I store a lot of my media on my NAS. My OS and my whole storage on all my devices can be about 250. 250 is actually what I have in most of my computers, a 250 gig SSD, because everything's either stored on the NAS or I'm pulling it off online. Like all of my videos, once I record them, I will put them on the NAS. So there's really no need for me to have anything more than that. So I agree with you, a small OS drive. And then if you have the need on your desktop PC to maybe have more, doing the spindle drives. I wonder when we'll get to the point where we'll see spindle drives, for consumers at least, kind of phased out completely and everything will be SSD. You think that'll be sometime soon, or you think spindle drives are going to stick around for a while?
I think they're here for a while.
Okay.
Just for the bigger drives. We've been I bought a bunch of those 8 terabyte drives for the burst boxes that we've been building. I have 14 of them sitting here if I were to buy, I got them for 150. They're pretty low quality drives. There's no way I could afford SSD for that.
Totally.
For that size.
There's definitely a use case for it, but I think most consumers nowadays don't even need storage as much as they did. Like you and me need storage. Right. But most people, everything's backed up in the cloud, so they have an SSD in their laptop. Yep. Probably not much else. At least I know a lot of my friends don't have any spindle drives anymore. They've gone all SSD because all I need is one drive, and that's it. So I wonder in the consumer area, in the kind of the prosumer where you and I kind of sit as far as storage needs, I think they'll stick around. But I think as far as a consumer goes, I think the spindles are pretty much on their way out.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. Let's just look price-wise if you're over at Amazon. And if you're in the UK, by the way, my Amazon link still works. So if you go to the average, I don't know how
it's the only place it still works, right?
I think it does. Yeah, and I don't even know how you would use it anymore. But anyways, doesn't matter. If you head out to Amazon right now, a Western Digital Blue NAND 500 gig SSD, $128. That's a real reasonable price point, right? When we think about what am I going to buy? What's the average consumer going to buy and put in their box? Well, 500 gig is probably $130 is the right price point for that, right? The Samsung,
$138 for a 500 gig.
$130.
You can get almost a 500 gig SSD for $80.
That's a 500 gig SSD.
Oh, SSD. Sorry, I thought we were talking spindle.
No, Western Digital Blue 500 gig SSD.
Okay.
Yeah, solid state, everything, $130 for
That's
500 gig, right? The standard, I think the standard SSD, that Samsung 850 Evo, that 250 gig, that's like everybody buys that, right?
Yep.
Those are $98, right now.
And that's like the gold standard, yeah.
Yeah, no, right on. That's a and then that Evo 500 gig, $150. So you can get a SanDisk 240 for $70 if you want to go on the, if you want to go towards the cheap end.
And those prices have like come down in half because I know, so I was in law school, I think, when I upgraded my buddy Colin's laptop and my laptop to an SSD. And we had to go with like a 250 and we paid that same price or maybe even a little more at that time. And that's only been 3 years ago, maybe 4 years ago. So these things are coming down about every 2-3 years. They're price.
Well, it seems like the sweet spot, you're always looking for that sweet spot, and it kind of depends on kind of where your budget is, right? For those of you who are really budget conscious, probably the sweet spot's 120 gig. You're talking about $60 right now. So that's kind of a really nice, if you wanted to go budget. 120 gig is plenty for an operating system.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Soup is just plenty if you're going to do operating system work. And then I think the next sweet spot's 500 gig, and that's $130. And you're in. And so in theory, then those 1 terabytes should be $300. I don't think, let me see if I can quick look those up. I don't know where they're at right now, but let's just do 1 terabyte SSD and see if we can find them. The portable drives are pretty cheap. You can get a 1 terabyte portable drive. Yeah, no, they're just under 300 actually. So
Western Digital Blue 249.
Yeah, 289 for the Samsung, the 860. So yeah, if you wanted to go 1 terabyte, pretty easy to get in at the $300. That's probably a little outside of the average guy PC build. Is the 1 terabyte? I think dropping 3 bones, or let's say 250 bones on an SSD for the average guy, probably a little much, but I think that 500 gigs in the sweet spot.
Yeah. That's true. But if I'm going to be buying a 1 terabyte spindle and then like a 126, SSD for boot, you're getting close. We're getting close to where, okay, I'll just go a 1 terabyte SSD and throw everything on there.
Right. No, right on.
Yeah.
Right on. So it's been a while since I've done a study in
where we looked at those terabyte prices. I was actually expecting them to be higher.
Yeah. I was thinking the 1 terabytes would be closer to 400 or 500, but they have found their way down as well. So, I think it won't be long before 1 terabyte's the standard. So probably a year from now, we're going to have 1 terabyte at that 150, 179 kind of price point. And then, then the 2s and 3s will make their way down, and maybe it's a couple years before we see 10 terabyte drives. I'm not sure for the average consumer, 10 terabytes is a lot. And I just don't think we're going to get to that point where you need 5 to 10 terabytes of SSD storage for the average consumer. They're either putting that in the cloud.
I've always thought about that too. And then I've thought, okay, but then every time we say that, our video files take up 3 times more storage because now they're 20K, right? Like in a few years, who knows what everything just is bigger in the future, whatever. So it just takes more space to store what we would do now.
Yeah.
But you're right. 10 terabytes, even if we get a lot bigger with video, that's a lot of space.
It's a lot. And so I guess it'll depend on the need being there.
And like you said, it's cloud, right? So how many people are actually storing all this stuff on their device?
We are certainly moving that way. So kind of interesting. Love to hear from you on this. What do you think? If you're listening, Jim@theaverageguy.tv. Let me know what you think theoretically that SSD limit is. It's hard to say now because we don't know what the future is going to look like, but be interested to know what you think 5-10 terabytes on those SSDs for the average guy. Certainly, Drashna and we have huge storage needs. That's certainly well beyond the average guy in a lot of cases. And so we'll talk about backing all that up here in a little bit, but be kind of interesting to know. Mike, in the pre-show, we've been covering beers, our favorite beers. In Germany, it's illegal to sell beer cheaper than water. That's how much beer they drink over there in Germany. It cannot be priced cheaper than water. Here in the United States, we were talking about this. You and I are paying, it's super cheap in Germany for really good beer too. But you and I were talking about, this Cross Train that I've been drinking tonight.
Right.
$8.50, $9 a 6-pack. Blue Moon, $6.99 on sale, $7.99 in most cases. That's, it's $1 a beer. But could we get it cheaper? And could we add tech to it? So you got a little article on there about genetically engineered beers.
Yeah, exactly. Our pre-show got me onto this. So when I saw it in the news, I was like, okay, this is kind of cool. So everyone kind of knows that IPAs have kind of taken over the scene as far as beers. Everyone loves the IPAs. And it's that bitterness taste that we all tend to like from the IPAs, or at least some of us do. And so they've actually found, so that bitterness comes from the hops. And hops are an added ingredient to beer that it's just hard to control, right? So hops, number one, can be expensive to buy. And number two, it's hard to control the taste and the flavor of these hops every batch. So a beer producer who's trying to produce a very particular type of beer could have the same recipe every time, but it could taste different depending on the batch of hops they got. So what they've actually found is that, so we've talked about genetic modification in a lot of different aspects, but not in beer yet. But they have actually found that they can genetically modify the yeast to have that bitterness taste that people like in an IPA. So you would have the same taste, and by genetically altering the yeast, you have a much more reliable output, and the taste is going to be more consistent every time. So the article does say that, the purist of the IPA is going to hate this. They're going to say, hey, you can't take out the hops. You can't genetically modify the yeast to replace the hops. But even without that, this is just interesting that they can start to do this and have a more consistent, and it's a lot cheaper for the beer producer to do that than it is for them to buy the hops. So if it makes it cheaper for them, more consistent, who knows about all the genetic modification and the good and bad,
whether it's good for you or not.
Yeah, whether it's good for you. The article doesn't really go there. Who knows? But still, interesting because I do love IPAs, and they're one of my favorite beers. And
we're eating more and more genetically modified food all the time.
And and most of the time it's bad for us.
Yeah.
Which is, it's pretty funny. Like, we can genetically modify stuff. So like, why are we doing it and making it bad? Like, could we genetically modify it and make it good? If we could do that, that'd be great. But I love IPA so much that this Super Juice is a double IPA. So just double up that IPA.
Bitter beer face. Remember when those commercials, the beer commercials used to be, the bitterness was bad, and now it's like hot sauce. Like, everybody's trying to get as bitter as possible.
And do you remember that first IPA you tried? I do, and I hated it. I was like, ooh, that's bad. And then you have another one. You're like, okay, it's kind of like coffee,
like
right?
hot sauce.
It's just like hot sauce or coffee.
Right.
Coffee's the same. Like, it's so bitter. Who would like that? And then the more you drink it, now I drink it black, and it's just the way you kind of get. Same thing with beer. So yeah, kind of interesting how science is affecting our beer prices.
No, right on. I think there's some really interesting tech in that. You mentioned coffee. This isn't in the show notes, but this week, Makita, so they make drills and stuff. They just upped their coffee game, and now they have a portable battery operated coffee maker that's rugged by design to take on the work site.
Job site.
Oh. Yeah, it'll make 5 cups of coffee using the little. So 5 cups of coffee per charge on the battery, and then you'd use little K-cups. So throw the K-cups in there, brew them a cup at a time.
Talk about a perfect partnership for the K-cups, and that K-cups being already portable and easy to use.
Yeah. Now I just need a coffee robot at work to just follow me around always, and I just snap my fingers twice, starts brewing right there, right? Then hands it to me. How great would that be to have?
Well, I find it so interesting, especially like when you say that. So we have these we have amazing coffee at work. It's actually like this bin, and we have custom beans that someone gets to pick out their favorite bean flavors, and we load up these containers, and so we scoop them in, freshly grind everything. But there are still people. We have a Keurig right next to this machine. So the machine is just a regular coffee brewer, but we use cool, like really nice beans. It tastes amazing. there are still people who bring in their own K-cups from home. Like, this coffee's free and it's great. People still, because they love their flavor of coffee, they will bring in their K-cups and still use the Keurig that's right next door.
We just installed a new K-cup, like industrial size, plumbed, so you don't have to ever fill it up with water. Yeah. For we put a brand new floor in, and they redid it, and they put this Keurig as part of the build out. And yeah, it's for that floor, it's great. They don't have to go all the way downstairs to get coffee. They can bring their own K-cups in and be able to get it done. But super high tech. I should walk over there and use it more. It's probably better coffee than the mass brewed coffee, but the way you make it with the beans and it's grinding, that's some pretty good coffee, right? Don't you think?
It's great. Freshly ground. Every single, so the grinder is really cool. It's okay. This is like the industrial version, as in like it's the, is it Brun flavor or Bun or not? Brand. Brun,
something like
brand.
That.
It's a big box and you pour the beans in, and so every time you stick the little container that holds the beans, it's just grinding it fresh every time. But it's still a very industrial thing. It's not fancy. It's just industrial looking.
Industrial.
And then you choose whatever beans you want. You know, you can go with Folgers beans if you want, or Starbucks beans. But it's great.
Well, $100 for that Makita. So if you're on the job site, or I would think fishing, camping, just take it with you.
I was just thinking about that.
Put in an 18-volt battery charger in there, and 5 cups of coffee. That's about all I could drink before I would need to stop. But pretty cool. I'll try and go back and fish those out of the where do they see that? Oh, it's not released yet. This is the thing. I guess it's been released in Japan right now, and it's coming to America this summer. So
I bet Lowe's will have it, because isn't Lowe's a big Makita?
They are. Yeah, I think it could sell really well here in the U.S.
I can think of a lot of use cases.
Yeah, one of those home gadgets, good for the garage. Although you'd have power out there, but a nice little addition if you're going to be out and about, or the power goes out. We always talk about that. Power goes out, you can use, right on. Well, I think the key thing is you can use that battery that you get for your drill or for whatever, and you can just slam that thing, slam it in and get the coffee made. So pretty cool little gadgets. I'd like one of those. I may get one of those. They're, I think, $100, so they're not terribly expensive, but a good way to do coffee. Joe on the go is what they say. Although I think there's a company that does it. They can probably now sue me for saying that. Mike, over the last couple of weeks, you and I have really been reconsidering our backup, and I mentioned this in the Facebook group a while back. It's funny that we've kind of come to it at the same time. Like we didn't even talk about it. It's just all of a sudden, you and I told you last week I was thinking about it. You're like, oh, I was too. So walk me through a little bit. What'd you have before, and what are you thinking about, or where are you going to move to when you think about your backup and your storage?
Yeah, I went to a couple different things. So my backup strategy has always been, since the advent of Dropbox pretty much having all my files, my NAS storing all my media, my laptops and other computers around the house, I don't need those to have like a one-to-one backup. So I don't need those to be, because if it's honestly a great opportunity for me, if those crash, to wipe it, new iOS, install Dropbox, that pulls down all my documents and all my media was on my NAS. It's really not a big hassle for me to wipe and replace. So the way I do all my backup is I store all of my media and files on my NAS, and then my NAS is the one computer in my home that is backed up to the cloud. So anything I want backed up to the cloud, I got to send it over to the NAS, and then it'll be backed up. So the way I was doing it in the past was I had a 2-bay QNAP, and man, it was years ago. I don't know how long it was. I was on this show when I bought that QNAP.
Oh.
It was a 2-bay unit. The only thing I didn't like about it is that the CPU unit was just so underpowered. Like, this thing it was slow. Even to read and write files, it was slow. It just took a long time. It did its job. It was also passively cooled, so it was always overheating. If you started to do a big backup and you were pulling or writing files to it a lot, it just didn't have any airflow. So it would get really hot and it would throw a warning every single time. So it wasn't the best designed NAS unit. And so I started to think about all my different options. And Jim, this actually ties into all of our other conversations. We were talking about Storage and Saya. Well, I was using all my other computers, my beefy computers that had a bunch of storage, to do all this other stuff that really wasn't benefiting me too much. Like, I had one computer that was doing Saya, one that was doing storage. And then I was struggling personally with writing files from this old device I was using for myself. I'm like, okay, this is stupid. I'm not going to use my more powerful computers to benefit something that's really not benefiting me. So I've talked about this before, but I wiped Saya, wiped storage. and ended up going on to the Dell R710, which is my enterprise grade server style. It's older, but it still works pretty well. It has 2 pretty decent CPUs in it, and it's got 8 bays for hard drives in it. And so I went over there, and that is now my NAS. So that is running Windows 10. It's just a shared drive. So throwing everything over there and then using Backblaze to back that up. When I was backing up with the QNAP, I went through a few iterations of backup. I tried Amazon's, and we were joking. We can't remember the name, as it was like, it's ice. It's something cold, right? Like whatever Amazon's cold storage is, that's what I was using for a while. I didn't like it because the user interface was just a little bit different for someone like me. I wanted something simple, and it's just not as simple. So then I switched over to, there was something in between, and I'm now struggling to remember which one I used in between. I can't remember, but I ended up going to iDrive because iDrive had an insane sale, and I just recently went to iDrive, maybe in November. It was right before the Christmas season that they had a great deal. It was like $10 for a year. So I got in on that. And then but when I switched everything over, I went to iDrive because QNAP was very limited in the amount of options that you could choose to have a native app on the QNAP that would do the backup for you. Glacier. Thank you, Anthony. So it's Amazon Glacier. Something cold. We knew it.
That room is always helpful. Yes.
They are helpful.
Yes.
So,
something cold.
So yeah,
I don't know. It's something
cold. Something cold. So the QNAP was limited in the amount of apps they had. So I chose iDrive. It was cheap, went with it. And then when I switched over to Windows, though, I really had my options open to me. And that is when I looked at our Facebook group, and then I did some more Googling and find out really, okay, what's working well for people now. And Backblaze just kind of stood out. We had just had Morrow Data on the show, and they had talked about their partnership with Backblaze. So for me, that connection was already there. So I decided to give them a shot. When I looked at Backblaze, the thing I really liked about them is their way to recover your data. They will ship you, and this is what I love about it. So you don't have to spend the bandwidth or the time to re-download all your data if you were to lose it. They will ship you like a 4 to 8 terabyte just external hard drive with all of your data on it. And they charge you for like $150, but then they reimburse you if you ship it back to them within like 90 days. So it's essentially free. So free recovery was huge for me. And the speed of them shipping me an external drive and me just being able to download that data to new hard drives. I mean, that one factor alone probably would have convinced me to use Backblaze, even if the price would have been a little bit higher than it was. And the price for their consumer model is only $60 a year, $5 a month. And so for me, that seemed to be a good price point, a good recovery feature. So I have gone with Backblaze, and I'm slowly backing up that entire. So like I said, that Dell R710 now is my NAS. It stores all of my files. And so that Windows 10, it's a Windows 10 box, is using Backblaze, the consumer version, to back up.
Yeah. And then Windows 10 is taking advantage of both those processors.
Correct.
That are in there. And then how much total storage do you have in the R710?
I think only like 3 terabytes.
Okay. Which is how much do you need?
I'm using two of it.
Okay. So you got a little overhead you could add to it if you want.
Yeah, ever since I stopped podcasting, it really has slowed down.
Oh yeah. You just don't use as much.
You don't use as much.
Yeah.
And really the only time it goes up is I'll do a mass backup of all of our photos from the iCloud, and I will take them over and actually put them on our NAS. That is when it jumps up. And then anytime I decide to do a random YouTube video, but that's not that often. So I think that 3 terabytes will be good for me, and I can upgrade it at any time with those 8 bays of drives in that R710. And then we'll talk about later what I'm working on currently is actually a plan for the future for another NAS, but it's working out well. Interesting side note, if you are planning on using Backblaze and you want to use the consumer version, when I originally went to go install this, I was still running Windows Server on my Dell R710, and Backblaze Consumer cannot run on any server OS. So it will not run on Windows Server. It says, hey, you need to upgrade to the pro version of our stuff. And so that was a good time for me. I was using the preview of Windows Server anyway, and I only had 120 days left. So I bumped that back down to Windows 10, and it worked great. So it does not care what hardware you're using, only what OS you're using. So you can use enterprise grade hardware as long as you're using consumer OS.
Yeah, no, it's a good story. I think we'll kind of keep up with it as we go. I've gone, back in the fall, I switched over to when we had this whole crash plan thing go on. I had been doing it off the Drobo. I'd been using an app off Drobo, the crash plan app. They no longer support that. So I needed to move it onto a Windows box. I have a N40L from way back in the day. Like that is an old, it still uses those. I think it's an old AMD Turon processor on there. Slow. It's got 4 gig, which is a miracle in itself, but it should have 2, but it has 4. And it's just super slow, but it would work for a file server, work great. Put through Windows 10 on there, put Crash Plan on there. I have had nothing but problems with Windows 10. It just shuts itself off. I've had to go into a bunch of settings to try and get it to stay on. Crash Plan has been doing some weird things with their software. It was just like it would work and then it wouldn't work. And I had trouble I use StableBit Drive Pool on there, and I've had trouble with that staying stable. And I don't think it's that, because I use StableBit in other places and it works great everywhere that I've used it, but it was really struggling. And I was thinking, well, maybe it's time to make this a storage box, right? Storage A. Maybe it's time to make this a dedicated storage box. And since we had Paul on from Moro Data, and I have one of those boxes, we started talking about how fast those things are. I was like, I'm an idiot. I've got one of the best NAS boxes sitting in my basement doing nothing. I'm an idiot for not using it. And so I started thinking, okay, how am I going to back this thing up? Well, I chose Backblaze. That was in the show. We had talked about that being available. The setup was super easy. It is literally making a Backblaze bucket container on the Moro drive. I pinged them over there. I pinged Tony. I said, Tony, how do I do this? He goes, super simple. Just create a container and you're in, right? And I did. And they get a little API from Backblaze, and I stuck it in the configuration, the web configuration for the box. Boom, I was up and running. And then I started moving. I thought, well, let's test. We'll take 10 gig and move it over there and just kind of see what it looks like. And I moved it over there and I moved it up, and I looked at the web interface for Backblaze, and there it was. And I thought, oh, I think game on at this point. Now I'm using B2, which is their cold storage. That's what they call it over there at Backblaze. Pretty cheap. Transfers is like a tenth of a cent or something. If you're gonna move data around or get it back, it's of course free to put up there. They charge you for the amount of storage that you have. I think I'll probably end up paying between 10 and 15 bucks a month when all is said and done to keep my storage there. I have about 1.5 terabytes. So it depends on how much I keep up there. I'll be honest with you, since I'm not going with an unlimited plan, Mike, I started really looking at all the files that I was keeping, and I've junked a bunch of stuff. Like, oh no. Like, okay, a download installer from something 4 years ago, some piece of software, and I did it because it was in a file and I didn't even look. But since I'm paying for it, each terabyte, each meg, it's like, maybe I should look through these kinds of things. So it's been a good opportunity for me to clean house, get my data a little tighter. They'll take anything, but I have a 1 terabyte cap, Cox Communication here. So 1 terabyte cap. So I've been kind of slowly feeding in. I moved 65 gig over the last weekend to kind of fill up my cap. So I had 100 gig left or so, with 2 days to go. Start jamming it in, right? Take it, right?
Right.
I can do 30 or 40 gig a day to get it moved up there. So I think I'll move. I am paying for Crash Plan through the fall, and I'm paying $4 a month or something ridiculous, right? They had that special deal for those of us that were on the consumer plan, and then we had to move over to the small business plan, and they gave us some ridiculous deal. So I'm just leaving my data out there for now, and I've kind of shut off, well, not technically, but I've shut off the Crash Plan client. I'm not updating it anymore. I'm moving everything to Moro Data and letting them move it up for me.
And that is the only downside of the Moro Data box, that you have to use the B2, which is going to be about three times the price. Because how much storage did you say is going to be $15 a month?
About $15 a month. Yeah.
Is for how much storage?
Well, you know what? Actually, I need to calculate that. So let me just say, I didn't necessarily go through the calculation. It's going to be pretty cheap for me. The storage there, nickel a gig, maybe, or something like that. I'd have to.
Okay. Because the consumer is unlimited. And that's the best part. So if you run your NAS on Windows 10 or a consumer grade hardware, then you can use their consumer grade program and get unlimited backup.
Yeah.
So what I'm thinking, I wonder how Backblaze works with, I would love to know if anyone has done the research. I haven't even looked into it, for something like a free NAS or a what's the big one, the buzzword here on this show? But anyway,
somebody
any
will
of
get in
those
the chat
free NAS type boxes, if those could run the consumer version of Backblaze, man, talk about taking advantage of some very fast and great recovery options for your data, and for $60 a year.
Yeah, no, right on. I'll need to compare this. I'll dig in a little bit. It seemed like no, not Drobo.
No, not
Ken.
Drobo.
Mike Howard.
Yes, it's Mike Howard.
Yeah, Mike Howard talks about he'll kill me. It's just I'm blanking at this point. Not Synology. Doesn't really matter.
I'll say it when it hits me because it's going to hit me in like 30 seconds.
It'll come in here in just a second. Something. No. I don't know why I'm having trouble getting it. Unraid. There we go. Unraid. There we go. Thank you, Ken. He's just throwing out words.
Yeah, all the words he's heard us say over the last year.
Franklin, Washington. He's just going to start throwing
Apple.
out. Yeah, he's going to start throwing out presidents here pretty quick.
There we go.
So, so I think I'm in. I did a little bit of the calculation, and I thought, okay, I think I'll take it. I'm going to take it because I want to take it for me. I'm going to want to take advantage of the ease of the NAS device, of being able to put it on. It will store it for me. It caches what I'm using all the time. And so that's all local. If I go over the 1 terabyte, it'll go grab it. It's cheap to grab it from there if I need it. I really use my NAS as a NAS. So it's not like those are files I'm putting in there or using all the time. For Moro data, if I am using it all the time, it'll just keep them in cache.
That's the great part, right? You're not going to be charged for that.
Yeah. I also have an Amazon one from them. They currently give that to me for free, but I also have an Amazon partition. So if I wanted to move, I'm getting a little pixelization from you, Mike. If I wanted to use the Amazon partition, I could do that as well. That's the beauty of the Moro data, is I can carve out a bucket, point it towards Amazon S3. If that's what I want to do, I could carve out a bucket, point it towards Backblaze. I could do a Dropbox. I could sync it with OneDrive. All those things are available for me. So it's just a cool little box. Don't forget, those are $4.99 to get in, which is an expensive Synology, right? And from that perspective, and you don't have to buy a bunch of drives with it if you're going to commit to cloud backup. So good little way to go about it. We'll thank Paul again. He came on, I don't know, 4 or 5 weeks ago. He came on. I think maybe it was more than that, but I appreciate them, and I like it. I'm kind of excited about getting everything moved over and turning that sucker into just a big fat storage server.
It would be one of those great products that, like, I wish this had been around. It probably was. I hadn't heard about it when my parents got their NAS. It would have been, because we got the Synology 2-bay, put 2 huge Western Terabyte Reds in there. The 2 Western Terabyte Reds they're 4 terabytes. Or are they even more than that? I think they're 4 terabyte drives and 2 of them. So that alone would have covered the price of the
for the box. You're doing it differently, right? You're not keeping all your data local, right? So you're keeping the first terabyte local, then everything else is going to the cloud.
That would have been fine for them, I think.
Yeah.
Well, but then again, maybe not, because they were actually, their whole goal was to use this as their storage for their Plex media. My parents have the largest movie collection I've ever seen. Yeah. And we put it all on there. So I guess when it went over that first terabyte limit, that would have been interesting. It probably would not have functioned very well with a Plex box to have to pull that from Backblaze if it was one of the files that wasn't cached anymore.
Backblaze is 0.5 cent per gig per month is their pricing for storage.
Okay.
And then the download, which traditionally has been pretty expensive, right? When we think about, by the way, S3 is about 2.1 cents. Azure is about 1.8 cents, and Google Cloud is about 2 cents. So just kind of give you a feel. So it's 0.5 cent so about a fourth. Backblaze B2, about a fourth of the price of those. Just
so
kind of,
you'd be at $15 for 3 terabytes.
Yeah. Yeah. And I have
where your calculation was coming in
so far. And I have about 1.5. So it's $7.50 maybe.
Oh yeah.
A month.
So not bad.
Yeah. And they bill, I think, by the week, and it's an average kind of thing. So like I've already gotten 2 bills that have listed. I won't pay until the month comes up, but it's just charging me kind of as I go on an average, which is cool. And then 1 cent per gig to download, right? Which for cold storage, you think Amazon S3 is 5 cents, Azure is 5 cents, and Google Cloud is 8 cents. So pretty good price. Those guys were pretty excited when they sold this to me, or when we first started talking about it. Backblaze was 2 cents, and they didn't have to take it down, right? They could have stayed at 2 cents. They're still the cheapest, but they just recently, a week ago, dropped it to a penny, a penny a gig for download. Perfect for me. I don't download very much off that. I'm going to hardly ever download off that because it's going to grab it from cache.
Right.
Most of the time.
Think about a terabyte cache. It's going to take you forever to push enough files that you haven't touched in a while past that terabyte, Mike.
Yeah, well, I've got 4 or 5 years of podcast stuff that I never touch.
No.
I know.
And even if you did, it's still not that expensive to download it. Do we think at all that those prices on like Backblaze and those coming down has any connection to blockchain-based storage?
I would say no. Just because I don't think these guys care just yet. Yeah.
That's
like
true.
I don't think
they care either, because I don't think that no one knows that there is blockchain storage.
Yeah.
That outside of the nerds,
outside of us.
Yes, exactly.
This podcast, podcast listeners,
and really probably outside of anyone trying to make money off it. Everyone else is like, well, why would I use that? That seems really hard.
Yeah, and I think I figured. So, for example, I think when I was thinking about putting some data over on Saya. And I think I figured at the exchange rate, and it's super volatile because those coin prices can go up and down all the time, right? So at the most expensive time, I think I was projecting $3 or $4 a terabyte to store it out there, something like that. So a little bit cheaper than now today, super cheap. Like you can probably, I bet you could store $1 a terabyte right now on Saya if you were actually transacting with the coins. So it's super cheap. I think storage, when I thought about it or when I looked into it, they were a little bit more expensive at the $3 to $5. And I think that's gotten a little bit cheaper as well, but they're unproven, right? Who's going to put their data out there? But there was a day that Backblaze was unproven. Like right when they came out, Carbonite, unproven. Right? Crash Plan, unproven. So who knows? Who knows where they'll compete? We just know that price keeps going down. I don't know. It's not going to go up. That's for sure. Like these prices are not going to go up. I guess they could for some reason, but to me that seems pretty reasonable. And I was pretty excited about $5 to $10 a month for backup and flexible backup.
Right.
And like you said, Backblaze has got that. They get that you can get a hard drive from them, great support, some of those kind of things. So I think it's time they get my business. And I think both of us, by the way, you and I came to that conclusion completely independently. Like,
and in very different circumstances. You through the Moro data, me through just needing a backup for a machine for Windows, and Crash Plan not being an option anymore.
Well, and I just there's been a lot of listeners. And maybe if you're in your car listening to this, you're screaming at me right now about Crash Plan because I got a lot of negative feedback when they changed the plans. And I was initially going to stick with them, but I was having so many problems with the hardware. And I'm like, you know what? I think it's time to be done. And I've got this piece of hardware I really want to use and I want to use more often. And I want to get on more of a traditional NAS and I don't want to host it with Windows 10 and I don't want to worry about sleep mode. And I don't, all that overhead that comes with a Windows 10 instance. And it was just kind of like, and to be honest, I've got the Moro box data, but I've got the Moro data box. So worked out pretty well. So Tony says, I only have 4 meg up. Wasn't happy Backblaze won't let me select folders easily to upload most important stuff first. Yeah, there's some limitations and I'm not focused on that at all. I'm kind of just throw it on the NAS, let it update as it has time.
And I agree on the consumer side, Anthony, I agree. I was like, okay, but what if I have, this is going to take me 6 months because of our data cap from Cox. I can't just let it go full throttle. And because I have about 13 up, so I can't let it go. And for stuff like this, Hannah is FaceTiming with her family all the time. I'm podcasting. I can't let it just throttle my upload because we just have terrible experience. So, I agree. I'm like, so what if something happens in this next 6 months and it didn't get the photos folder the one I would tell it to upload first, like the photos and then the podcast and then all the other useless stuff that I have up on my NAS. That's really all I care about. If I lose the photos of Emmett's the day he was born or something like that, like it would be awful. So yeah, I do agree. But besides that, though, they do have a lot of other really good controls. The limiter and how they represent the amount of data that it would use per month or per day. I think it's by per day. You can slide that and say, okay, bandwidth wise. So I have it set to, I think it uses about 4 meg, 3 or 4 meg consistently, which is about 11 gigs a day.
I need to talk to the guys over there at Moro to talk with Tony, see if they've got a throttler on there where I could go in. Because today that I've connected through their API. B2 is kind of a commercial service, to be honest. Consumers can use it, but it just connects through an API. And so you create a bucket, and then you create a bucket over at B2, and they get an API number, and you plug it in on the software, and boom, it's done. You're in, you're up. You get the billing.
So it would be on Moro's side more than Backblaze's side.
Yeah, right. I don't really have a Backblaze interface besides the web interface that tells me. And you know what? I haven't dug into the settings on either side, to be honest with you. So I got a little bit of work to do to get that figured out.
Have you shown that box?
What do you mean?
It's probably plugged in and you can't.
It is. It's plugged in and mounted to the wall, but it's literally just those. It's a NUC. It's an Intel NUC.
Okay.
It's that big, and that thick, and it's as generic as you get. They did not, this one's just got I forget the processor that's in it, but that SSD drive and 1 terabyte SSD. I'd have to go back. You can listen to the podcast if you want the specs on it. Just go back and listen to when we had Paul on.
Those guys want to send one to me. They're more than welcome.
I should
send another review.
Hey, next time you get something that's a little different than mine, I've got a fellow podcaster who might want to review it. So I'll send that note over to Tony. See what he says. So you never know.
It's so funny because whenever you switch jobs or switch anything where you're with a new group of people and you become known as the tech guy, one of the other attorneys was like, "Hey, you're into home tech." Because we actually had a party. This was last Thursday. The work party before I was podcasting was for March Madness. He's like, "Hey, you're a tech guy, right?" I'm like, "That's kind of weird. How'd you know that?" And he's like, "Oh, well, they send a bio out when we have new hires, and the bio that you sent in said you podcast with home tech." He's like, "So I need help." And he started, we just went, and then all of a sudden someone was like, "Hey, wait, did you say home security cameras? Do you know how to set up a home security camera? Because I don't want a Ring one. I want a custom one." You become known. So if they want to send me that, I might start suggesting Moro Data as their data backup.
Yeah.
There we go.
Other Jim is asking, does Backblaze allow you to precede your files? In other words, I think what he's saying is send a hard drive to them to do that. And I do not know.
I don't know either.
A good question. I have to, other Jim, you may have to head over there to Backblaze and discover that. I'll have to dig in a little bit on that. I don't know.
It's an interesting concept. I've never thought of that before.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of services that will do that. CrashPlan would have done that for you. You could send them a hard drive. And go from there. So other Jim says, is this billable hours?
Everything is billable hours. Everything. Jim doesn't know, but he has a huge bill that's been piling up for the past year and a half.
Holy crap. Yeah, I'm just going to get like a $10,000 bill.
Right.
Here's all for the legal advice.
$10,000. That was just for January.
Ooh, yikes. Well, Mike, it's been nice podcasting.
Yeah, it's been good.
We'll remind everybody if you know. Mike, a couple things we're working on as we kind of think about wrapping things up here in the next few minutes. But I'm not surprised, but my son, Tim, the Marine son, picked up a Pixel 2 on Project Fi, I don't know, 6 months ago. He couldn't, not even that, maybe 4 months ago. He couldn't get it in Japan. He's currently in Japan serving in the Marines there. And so he had it shipped here, and then we shipped it to his APO address. Google would not ship it to him directly. He had been on Fi before, but his phone went to crap, and so he needed to buy a new Pixel 2. Sarah said to me the other day, and actually this might be the best decision I've made ever. She said, I think I want to go with the Pixel 2, and I want to get on Project Fi. And so we dug in, and Tim has been awesome for tech support. So she talks to him about all that. Like, I haven't answered one question, Mike. It's been really awesome. Yeah, no, totally. I talked to Tim today, which is great. He likes that. When we do that, he likes to talk to us overseas. But so all the boys are on it. My number 3 and number 4 are both on that and love. And I think $30 a month is based on what now we'll see what her usage actually is when she gets on there. But I think that's the plan we set her up on. And if she needs more, they add more. And if she doesn't use it, they give it back. Now I think she'll use at least $30 a month, but pretty easy setup. We ordered it Sunday. It came yesterday. Took it out of the box, connected the cables to her old Android phone. It transferred everything over. She spent the majority of the evening last night setting it up, and has a case coming for it. And we'll put a screen cover on it this weekend. I'll take her to Best Buy and I'll just have them install it. I hate installing those things. I always get fingerprints on the backside. I'm kind of a jackass when it comes to those kinds of things. I'm just a loser. And so yeah, she's now a proud owner of a Pixel 2 on Project Fi. And I'm going to see how this goes. I'm going to be serious. I think 2 years from now, when my phone is off, you can't beat the plan over there on Project Fi.
I'm just looking at it. I had actually not checked into the prices.
Yeah. So for now, and it's just super fair pricing, and it's just kind of like you pay for what you use, and they give you a credit on your bill. If you paid more than you use, they give you a credit on your bill. I mean, it's the purchasing of it could not have been more simple. We just Googled Project Fi, went in there. She signed in with her Google ID. Everything after that was associated with it. We walked through the steps. They come to the phone part. We paid cash. Well, we just paid for the phone. They will do 2 years of payments. I'm not a big fan of payments. So it was $649. So we just paid that. I had been saving for that. And so we just paid it and walked it through, and I say, your phone will be there in 3 to 5 days. And it got here in 3. We set it up. It worked. As she was setting it up, it automatically ported the number over. Her old phone went off. Her new phone came on.
Wow.
Yeah. It was pretty sweet. We had a pretty good experience.
I'm looking at the map, though. It looks like the LTE is very limited.
Well, it's Sprint, T-Mobile, and whatever, right here in the area.
The 3 worst LTE services.
Yeah, but we've had pretty good luck with our Sprint here in Bellevue where we're at. And so and Mike, seriously, she doesn't even use a gig of data a month, my friend. So
then that's the difference, right? So if she's not using it, this is perfect for her.
No, it's
and we don't really either, except for the fact that we spend a lot of time down at our family farm, and Verizon is the only one. If you're on Sprint, I couldn't even make a call with Sprint down at the farm. So Verizon, though, I have full LTE. So for us, we're kind of stuck in this really.
No, it's certainly case by case, right?
And how much did you pay that is? $30
for the minimum. Is pretty much.
Then does it go cheaper if you have like you and?
Yeah, I think it gets a little. I think I can add a phone then for 15 as the base.
Okay.
And then it's $10 a gig or something like that, or $10 for 10
gig. If you take out our phone payment plans, right? Like, because I always take those out, and what you're paying for your service, I think we're paying like $120 for Verizon for 2 people, which is $60 a person.
And that's no phone. You're not paying for any phones right now.
I add 60 onto that to get us up to like 80, 190 for our phone payments.
Yeah.
So
that's about what we pay too.
Is 30 covering the phone payment too for the Pixel?
No, well, we didn't pay. I paid cash for the phone, so I paid the phone outright.
And how much are those Pixels right now?
$650.
Okay.
Yeah, which I didn't think is bad.
Yeah.
She got almost 3 years, almost 4 out of her last phone. She has a Galaxy Note 4. And so she is I think 3. Let's just say 3, because I think it is 4. And I bought her a battery to replace on that Note. So we replaced the battery once, which is, thank God you can, right, on those kinds of things. And it was just getting kind of clunky and slow, and so we were like, it's time to replace it. But I think I'll watch how she enjoys it, and if she hates it, it'll probably be a great phone for me.
Hey.
So
you could move away from the iPhone now?
I think I can.
Really?
If this thing works for her, like if it works, it does maps, it does.
Right.
There's, the iPhone. Remember, before I came to iPhone, I came off a Galaxy S4, which was a nightmare. Like, it was an awful, awful phone. And, heated up to the temperature of the sun. It was never reliable. The battery didn't work very well. It was an awful phone. So I was coming off a bad phone. And then, of course, I landed on an iPhone 6, which was just great. In my mind, that may have been the best iPhone ever made. It was just a really good iPhone. Rock solid. Battery life was good, blah, blah, blah. And it wasn't until I held that thing for 3 years. And then the battery started struggling, right, with the problems that we know. And then I upgraded to the 8 Plus. Great phone. I may keep it for 3 years. Like I'm going to pay off the lease in 18 months. I have iPhone for life, so I could. That's going to be tough. I would not go to a 10 right now. That's been a weird thing. But the advice from the community, somebody gave me some advice in the community. Go to the 8 Plus now. Wait for the next version of the 10.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing. I'm waiting too. I have the 7, so I'm a version behind you. 7 Plus. I'm waiting for that next version of the 10 to upgrade.
Yeah, to come out.
So you're not tied into the ecosystem, whereas we finally have my entire immediate family, Hannah's entire immediate family, my core group of guy friends that I text all the time, and Hannah's core group of guy girl that we are all iPhone. There's not a single person that's on Android. So the ecosystem, the FaceTime and the iMessage is everything to us. So I don't think that's what's really keeping us on. We love, I mean, there's that Pixel 2. My buddy at work of mine just got it, and it's a great phone. So I agree with you. It could definitely be a replacement, but I'm tied into the ecosystem.
Yeah, and it's a good reason. I think we're just past that point of parity, and this is what you choose to be.
Totally.
All the phones are pretty great at that high level. If you're going to pay $500 or more for a phone, it better be great, right. And so I think they're all, but Apple's in the same boat. If I paid for that, I mean, that 8 Plus was a $750, $800 phone, right? I'm paying for it in monthly payments. Now, the reason I took payments at Sprint is because they subsidize them. So I'm getting, it's a $30 payment, and they're making 18 of it every single month. So
they're going to start cutting those back. Sprint T-Mobile both this year, because they've been losing their shorts on it for the past few years.
Yeah, well, they've been trying to catch up, right? But might as well take advantage of it while it's there, right?
They'd definitely be.
Yeah, no, totally. It's been Kyle kind of talked me into this way back in the day when he was working at the store. And I've been kind of hooked on the subsidies. They keep saying, oh, the subsidies on phones are gone. I'm like, I don't think they are. I think they're still alive and well if you're a Sprint customer.
Right.
And so I've been taking advantage of the subsidies for sure. Great little phone. I love my iPhone. It just does what it's supposed to do, right? It runs Waze. It does my podcasts. It gets the information. Tonight, I was having dinner. My daughter's home on spring break, and she was making fun of me. I was using Siri, and I almost never use Siri, but she was making fun of me. Like, Dad, are you still really? And so I made Siri send her a text message that said, you should use Siri more. And I sent it to her, and she was right across the table. Right. And so we had a ton of fun. I could have sent that via iMessage.
I never use Siri. How weird is that? You and I, who are both huge advocates of the Amazon Alexa devices, everything like that, I don't use Siri. Like, it's just something on the mobile phone that just doesn't make sense. If I have to press a button to activate it completely, we have now gotten to the point. I know there's the whole blank Siri thing you can say to activate. I'd say it, but both of our phones would wake up.
Right.
But yeah, it's just
it's
convenient.
No, I don't. I'll be honest. I don't use it a lot either. I do use it sometime, and there's times it's convenient when I want to know the weather or some of those kind of things. By the way, speaking of that, we've moved the hand. Remember, I bought one of those scanners from Amazon where you push the button and it can scan.
I have one too.
You never use it, so it sat on the fridge forever, right? So Sarah asked me, hey, can we move that into the bathroom and make that? Because she'll be doing her makeup and she'll remember she needs to order something. And the nearest Amazon device is all the way in the kitchen. So we just put a hook up in the bathroom, and it just sits on the bathroom. You just push that button and talk to it, and then let it go.
So there we go. There's a good use for it.
It's perfect. And it's not on in the bathroom, which is
right. You don't want it to be always on. We had the funny, so my mother watches my two boys now. So Hannah just went back to work. This week was her first week back. And so, my mom hasn't watched the boys in over 3 months, because Hannah's been on maternity leave. So we walk in, and my oldest, Emmett, we're talking, all of a sudden he's over there in the hallway yelling at something. We don't know what he's yelling at. We walk in, and he's pointing up at their thermostat, and he's saying, and I know exactly what he's saying. He's yelling at it, and my mom is what? Why is he's never had any interest in the thermostat. So Emmett has a favorite song called Thunder, and he knows that all of our Alexa devices play it, and he knows that our Ecobee is an Alexa device. So sometimes when he's in the hallway, that's the device that plays it, and he associates now that all thermostats can play his music.
Can do that.
So he was over there
the
yelling.
AC/DC Thunder. Is that
no,
what?
The Imagine Dragons Thunder.
Okay. All right.
So he's over there in the hallway at my parents' house yelling at their thermostat to play him Thunder. I'm like, bud, their thermostat doesn't play music. My mom just cracked up. She's like, yeah, our thermostat doesn't play music. Oh, wow. It was,
I think that's a preview of what's to come.
yeah, look at my son. How did he know that?
Yeah.
And how did he associate, some little block on the wall that plays his thing? Like, we talked to it and he's yelling at it. Like, I know mom and dad just say something and then it plays my music. That's all I know.
Yeah.
He knows. Yeah. Nothing else.
That's a quick association that, we on Star Trek, they would always talk anywhere. And I remember in those early days, like, do they have microphones everywhere? I mean, how would that happen? And it seems so weird that they would just talk. And now you're like, oh, that's why they had an Alexa on the Enterprise.
We put a new, what do you call it? A dresser in his room. So now we had a place to put the Alexa device that had been unplugged in his closet for a while. Oh, he found out that he can play Thunder in his room. It was game over. Now he's always in his room just yelling at that thing. And he's like, if he could talk, he's a year and a half. He can't talk, but I know what he's saying. And he's just waiting until Alexa can understand baby babble.
It won't be long,
right?
It will not be long. I mean, I think he's going to be, but I think that's going to be the expectation of that generation, right? Of my grandkids and your kids.
Oh, totally. No matter what device it is, if it's Amazon, Apple, whoever it is, Google, but every house should have at least one of these devices that can just say stuff to.
Yeah.
And the interesting part is now that we've gotten past the whole saying I guess we still have to know the wake word. I guess we're still there, right? Like we have to know what ecosystem the house is in. But besides that, it's pretty standard. You don't have to customize the way you say it anymore, whether you're using Google, Amazon, or Apple.
Well, Amazon is testing right now the ability to understand who's talking.
Right.
And so you can train it and some other things. I think a couple years of testing where they get that right, I think we'll stop saying the wake word eventually. I mean,
Probably.
I really do. That seems creepy because then it has to always be listening.
Right.
But I think we're going to give up that. Okay. Now people are screaming at me in their cars saying they're not.
I hope we don't.
But I think we're going to give it up for convenience.
Because how is she going to know if I'm giving a command to my son or to her?
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know that and I could be wrong. I just kind of think that's maybe the next.
I think they totally could. I just hope they don't.
Yeah.
The interesting focus Amazon has made lately is with all of their devices having screens, and they've been discounting these devices to get video in the home. Have you noticed their big play on video? Mm-hmm. They now have a security camera that's tied into their locks, and their selling point was that you could have the delivery service deliver your package, open your door, put it in, and it's okay because we have a video camera watching. They're really trying to get into video in the home. I don't know what their play is yet there, but they've been really pushing it. Yeah. I just got another $25 discount code off of any Amazon Alexa device for being an Audible member. Which is
cool. Well, Sarah just walked back here with her phone. What?
5 bloatware apps.
Uh-huh. Oh, so she says 5 bloatware apps on the new Pixel versus 20 on the Google
say 5
or
is great.
The Samsung device. So she's holding that. Yeah, she says between Sprint and Samsung it was awful. So you like it? All right, good. I spent a lot of money on that thing.
So Michael, without a case and a screen,
yeah.
I feel like I'm carrying around a naked newborn baby.
Apparently, she can just come in and interrupt the podcast whenever she wants now.
Yeah, she just comes on down.
No, right on. Do I need to get your microphone? Or
I've got a naked newborn baby upstairs. If you want to compare the two, they're probably pretty. Mine's a chunky one though. He's freaking huge.
You could hear her on that.
Yeah.
Okay. Good. Yeah. Well, it is weird to have a new phone without a cover and without a shield. Like you're like,
you treat it.
Yeah. I did buy the insurance, by the way. It was $3, I think, or $5 something. And I'm like, you know what? I'm just buying it. It's not worth it to kind of monkey around with. All right, few quick updates as we run out of here. We were talking about I was talking about having some USB problems on my burst box, and the burst drives kept dropping in the middle of the night. Couldn't figure out why. I bought a brand new card. When I went in, I have a typical USB 3 card. Bought this on Amazon for $16. You'll notice
Express card.
Yeah, PCIe. And by the way, the manufacturer of this card, which is, I forget who it is now, said best if it goes in the fastest PCIe slot on your box. You'll get the best performance out of it. So I moved the video card down because I don't care about video. Put the card in. plugged the thing in, and I felt it crack a little bit. And I thought, oh, as you're plugging in on this part, you'll notice that plug is now missing because I broke it completely in putting it in. And I think the contacts were still touching, but I think it was moving around some, and it wasn't as stable as I wanted it to be. So it was dropping cards. I don't know. I just know that I got a brand new one, Feb Smart, right off Amazon, another $16 card, except this USB card, no power. Right? It has some capacitors for each of the ports in it. So if you imagine looking at this here, there's some capacitors across the top that are storing some energy up for you. So it's pulling some energy from the board and then storing it. And when it needs it, then it ships it to each one of the ports. Been rock solid so far. And no plug in it. So it doesn't take an extra plug-in from your power supply. Works pretty good. I'll drop the link to it in the show notes. I think I did that already to our show notes. Been pretty good. Standard, again, 16, 17 bucks, I think, something like that. Might have been 20 for this one, but it's one of the newest. I wanted a new one, Mike. The other ones were 3 and 4 year old technology, and I kind of wanted to try something that had just come out. So if you're struggling to add USB 3 or you want to add some more, I gave that a shot. Link will be in the show notes. You can give that a try if you're interested. Working great so far. To be honest with you, only been in for 2 or 3 days, but it was going down, not down, but I was losing drives every single night on my burst box. No longer there. Mike, lots of news about Facebook. We could probably spend a whole bunch of time talking about this.
Yeah.
You deleted your Facebook app off your phone, but maybe not for reasons that we might think. Why'd you do that?
I was debating on whether including the Facebook story in our news, and I said, you know what? No, let's wait. We had some good news segments. We'll talk about that another week. But I deleted my Facebook app. I also deleted Messenger. So now it's funny. I have to check my computer for when Jim sends me the link to the show every week. But I deleted it not because of that, just because of the content of my Facebook feed was just terrible. And I knew that I was addicted to opening. Not addicted, but addicted. Yeah. In the meantime, anytime I just had nothing to do, click it, open up Facebook and just start scrolling. Right. And the videos, it was none of my friends' content. None of it. It was videos. It was stupid political stuff. It was stuff I just didn't need to see. And so there was the added benefit of deleting an app that I knew was tracking me in some way on my phone. That was like, okay, that's an extra reason to delete it. But mainly it was because it was sucking my time. I would be sitting on the couch, and instead of turning and talking to Hannah, I'd just be scrolling through, seeing a bunch of stuff that I didn't need to see and that was useless to me. I deleted it. So I no longer have Facebook, or I didn't delete my account. Let's be clear. I can still log in, and I can go to my browser and get to Facebook that way if I really need to get in. Didn't delete my account, but I did delete the app and the Messenger app off my phone. And it's been nice. I did it yesterday, and it's weird when you don't have that as an option anymore, how fast you just open it. Oh, you click it back off and put it back in your pocket. Like it's interesting. So
yeah. No, I think it's
I'm
a good
gonna focus
exercise.
more on Instagram, I think, too. I think that's gonna be where I share a lot of my pictures and go to some other.
Listen, if you think they're not tracking you on Instagram, isn't that a Facebook property?
But this is not a privacy thing for me.
Right on.
Like this was just I was opening the app and wasting a lot of time on it, and the content there, Instagram content, is only the people I follow. Weird, right? Like a novel concept that I just want to see what my friends are posting in picture wise. So Instagram for me is a much more useful.
Paid advertising has not I can never say that word, proliferated on
a little
Instagram.
There's
but not as bad as Facebook.
But not as bad, right? Like it's a paid post.
It will though. It will. Yeah. I think this is the beginning of the end for Facebook, to be honest with you. I wrote this post back in 2006, by the way. Or, I mean, 2009. I was a little early, but I think this is the beginning of the end. I think I'm hearing so much backlash from your generation that is like, we're done. We're just done with it. It's just stupid. All the things you said. It's stupid. It doesn't work. They've ruined it. Thank you, Mark Zuckerberg, for ruining it. We're gone. Yep. And it can, I think within a year or two, it could be another MySpace. It's gone.
The logins. I have not taken the time to go in and change. I use that I should never have started the whole login with Facebook. And there's a lot of accounts where I'm not. I did this sign up with email, which is going forward. If anyone hasn't done this yet, just do the sign up with email. Don't do the Facebook. Don't tie yourself into a social media platform. So there's a few. Spotify is a great example of someone I'm tied into Facebook with. I need to figure out how to untie that Facebook account and make it just an email account. But as soon as that's done, I could easily be off of Facebook.
Yeah. I think over the next couple of years, we're going to hear a lot of that.
Yep.
And I'm sure for a lot of you listening, you're done with it. I can see the audience as I think I know them are like, yeah, we're done.
And the weird part, my generation, the younger age of my generation, they're not done with it. They never started. A lot of them don't even have Facebook accounts. They have Facebook accounts in the terms of Instagram, but they are all Instagram, Snapchat, all of those instead of Facebook.
And I think actually some of them are lurking out there. They don't use it, but they're lurking. There's too much FOMO. They kind of want to know what's going on out there, but they're not posting anything. They are watching. I've heard that before. And then I've seen kids of that age with Facebook on their phone open and they're scrolling through it, but they're not updating it. So they're there, they have accounts, they're lurking because they want to know what's going on.
Yeah.
But they're not participating.
And that might be the way I stay, right? Like I have an account, so if I need to check back in with something, I can.
Yeah. I actually post very little on my own personal one now.
Right.
I post very little. I post it in the group. I do a ton for Gallup. Like that's a work app for me.
Yes.
So I'm in it all the time, right? But
then how fast does it become not profitable for Facebook anymore because they realize people just have these accounts, right? But no one's posting, no one's looking.
Super unprofitable. Yeah.
I guess if people are still looking, it's still profitable, right? Like if they're they don't need to post. They're not cared about people's posts. They're cared about their advertisers' posts that you're seeing. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see where they go. I think the next 6 months will be very telling for Facebook. I think we'll know a lot by the fall of where Facebook is going.
No, it will be interesting.
If they they double down on Instagram.
As soon as F
it up. Don't mess it up this time.
They will. They always do.
Yeah, they do.
It's just they get greedy, right? That's like, we could do this, then we shouldn't do this, but we're going to do it anyways.
Yeah, they want the money. So
it's so stupid. We have big groups at work on Facebook, and as soon as that news broke, I had one of our European coaches contact me and say, you guys should get off Facebook right now. And that's a little extreme, but no, it's in some ways it's kind of true. And I'd like to move this is community data. We need to move it somewhere else. Those moves are big and expensive and really hard to do. So we'll move it right the next time we move it. But I moved to Facebook for convenience. I think we're going to have kind of a outflow of Facebook users. So that's coming up. Well, if you're hanging out in the live show, hang tight. We're going to go into some post show, talk about some crypto. If you want to hear the crypto conversation and you are a regular podcast listener, just head over to theaverageguy.tv/support. You can sign up for just $1 a month. Kind of helps me see who's consuming that content. And so I appreciate it if you want to do it that way. If you want to contact me, send me an email, jim@theaverageguy.tv. You can track me down on Twitter @jcollison. Great way to do it as well. If you want to join the Facebook group, that's facebook.com. We just talked about that /group/theaverageguy. I don't know how many want to come out there and do that. That's kind of our way of spending time with each other. And there's maybe a dozen of us who talk on that page. Don't forget the AverageGuy.tv platform, both web and media hosting, powered by Maple Grove Partners. Let's see if I can say it. Get secure, reliable, high-speed hosting from people that you know and you trust. For more information, visit maplegrovepartners.com. I haven't heard from Christian in a couple weeks. Probably need to make sure he's okay. Amazon has been, hey, you still there? So anyways, he's been pretty busy. Doing great things at Amazon.
Driving around his Maserati.
Totally. He's got a Lambo.
Yeah.
And he's actually doing pretty well. I just saw him a couple weeks ago. So Christian, appreciate your sponsorship and what you do in hosting Home Gadget Geeks. Don't forget, we got that app from LastPass. If you want to get the live version, best way to do it, or just actually the recorded versions are out there as well. HomeGadgetGeeks.com for both Android and iPhone. If you want to do it that way, it's available for you. Of course, t-shirts are still available. If you want to grab one of those OG Home Gadget Geeks t-shirt, theaverageguy.tv/shirts, you can still go out there and pick those up, all kinds of cool colors. Get that done. We are live every Thursday. And I'm going the newsletter, I forgot last week too. So darn it. I should say, if you want to, since I'm forgetting the newsletter, let me just kind of quick pull up who's on the schedule. Mike and I have had the last 2 weeks. By the way, this is kind of the schedule. We're going to push more of these kinds of shows out just because they're a ton of fun. Yeah. And 2, I just haven't had the time to track down guests. So it's been one of those kinds of things. But next week, Edward Weniger's back. We're going to talk crypto, but I'm going to ask him a lot of blockchain questions. So this will not be a coin conversation. for the most part. It's going to be a lot about what they see and the business that's going on in the blockchain. So come back and join us next Thursday. We'll do some of that crazy coin talking in the post show, and I'm going to make that post show available for free for everybody. So we'll have all Edward for both that. If you want to make that, if you want to get that, it'll be available on Patreon, but anybody can get to it. So you might want to if you want all that conversation, it'll be pretty cool. And then after that, the big barbecue show. It's coming up, Mike.
BBQ
barbecue show. Grill Tech is coming, 350. That's 350. That's a great number too. For show 350 is coming up, and so Mike Howard, Mark Robson coming on for the big show, and we'll talk about some grilling, and we got some great stuff coming up there. So we are live every Thursday, 8 p.m. Central, 9 Eastern, out here at theaverageguy.tv/live. Stay around for crypto conversation, or head over to Patreon to get it. With that, we'll say goodnight, everybody.